Thank you very much. Amandla, 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 Aluta. The leadership of the church, bishops, comrades from the different organizations, our representative from the Palestine embassy. It's a bit of an awkward one to be asked to speak on behalf of BDS and the Muslim community. Which brings me to an important point. BDS South Africa, we're very clear that the struggle in Palestine, the struggle against Israeli occupation, the struggle against the appropriation of Judaism for narrow, chauvinistic, tribal, and racist purposes. There are two things that it is not. It is not a Muslim thing, and it is not an Indian thing. We may be inspired by our religions to strive for a more just world, but it isn't a contestation for religious hegemony or supremacy by this force or that force. The whole idea that you can establish, that you can rebel against the appropriation of God for a particular community and say, no, God doesn't belong to the Jews. And then you say, but he belongs to the Muslims. Wait. You are, in theory, as bad as the others. Not in practice, because in practice the others are in control at the moment. And we need to make a distinction between this. But the whole idea that this is a struggle for Islam, in many ways it is. In the same way that it is a struggle for Judaism. But it is a contestation within the world of Islam, within the world of Christianity, and within the world of Judaism. There are people inside the Muslim community who think that God is a Muslim, who want to capture God and put him into a little Muslim box. And you can only name that God Allah, and only we can name God Allah. Other people must use other words. In the same way that there are people in the Christian community who, instead of believing in a God in whose image they must create themselves, they create God in their image. So you are a small nationalist, narrow-minded, little land-obsessed Jew, and you turn God into a little white male Jew who fights in the corner of other Jews. Allahu Akbar. God is greater than. And so we worship a transcendent God. And that is what I want to say to you as a Muslim. But we have the right to be inspired by our traditions. And so there are contestations inside communities, and I will end on this note. Inside the Muslim community, inside the Jewish community, there are contestations. Now, mainstream figures would want to pretend that there is a chief rabbi, and that chief rabbi speaks for all the Jews. And when a community is in a minority community like the Jews, then most of the other Jews who don't like this chief rabbi stuff at all tend to keep a bit quiet, because we are a minority community facing the larger world, so they don't protest too much, you know. But there shall be no other bishop in front of me. There shall be no other chief rabbi in front of me. I am the chief rabbi. I am the Mufti Azam. I'm the great Mufti of South Africa. There shall be no other. And so you've got this ridiculous thing where I think it's the Jewish Board of Deputies protested to the Democratic Alliance. What is this opposition outfit called? Musi Maimanes. Sorry, the DA. Okay. So where the Jewish Board of Deputies protest to Musi Maimane because they got a woman rabbi who's not an Orthodox Jew to come and open the DA conference instead of asking the chief rabbi. There shall be no other rabbi in, your God is one God, worship none. But inside the church, more pertinently, comrades, there's also a contestation. The church must make it clear that Jesus Christ is not for sale to the highest bidder. You offer me an all-paid trip to Israel, staying in a 5-star hotel. You may want to try to buy out our bishops. You may try to buy out our church, but our scripture, our Lord, is not for sale. Not a single, and I will really end on this note, not a single messenger of God ever came into this world and asked, how do I identify with, how do I support, and how do I align myself with power? Not one prophet of God came into this world. They looked at the world. They gave messengers. They came with scriptures that spoke to a God who identifies with the undersides of history. And so we're dealing with one of the most powerful military forces in the world. How can you not recognize the Davids in these images that you see all the time? How can you not recognize Goliath? And so the church has a battle. As the church had a battle during the period of apartheid, how to reclaim the soul of the church. How to give the church renewed authenticity after it was captured by a range of the hervormde kerk, the gereformeerde kerk, that hold these things. And of course, not just the Dutch Reformed churches, also amongst the evangelical churches, also amongst the apostolic churches. And the truth is, comrades, bishops, comrades in the leadership of the church, the truth is that it was a minority amongst our church leaders. But that minority, they save the honor of the church. And so we may be a minority. That's not the point. We will not be asked about whether we brought freedom to Palestine. We will only be asked, what did you do with the 24 hours that I gave you in your lifetime? I end with a quote from the Prophet of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad, who says that when the last hour strikes and you're on your way to your plantation, to your fields, and you've got your seeds in your hand, go ahead and walk and plant your seed. So, the revolution, we will try to accelerate. Transformation in a just world, we will try to accelerate. But we do what we can. And the rest we leave in the hands of God. But God will not allow us to rest without doing and wrestling, worstel, with the worstel, to wrestle with that which we have been given, our energies, our blood, our voices, our limbs. Action is in our hands. The outcomes we are not responsible for. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.